The grand ballroom glittered beneath thousands of crystal lights. Wealthy guests dressed in elegant suits and sparkling gowns filled the room, laughing and chatting as waiters carried silver trays across the polished floor. At the center of it all stood Ethan Blackwood. At 32, Ethan was one of the youngest millionaires in the city. Handsome, successful, and confident, he had built a technology empire worth hundreds of millions. Every magazine wanted his interview. Every socialite wanted his attention. Yet Ethan had one problem. His family refused to stop asking when he planned to get married. "Ethan," his mother whispered during the charity gala, "you can't avoid this forever." "I know, mother." "Then find someone." Ethan smiled. "Maybe someday." His mother rolled her eyes. "You've been saying that for 5 years." Before Ethan could answer, applause erupted from the stage. A charity auction was about to begin. Among the performers scheduled to entertain guests was a young violinist named Emma Carter. Few people paid attention when her name was announced. She wasn't famous. She wasn't wealthy. She wasn't connected to any important family. She was simply a music teacher from a small neighborhood school. Emma stepped onto the stage wearing a simple blue dress. Some guests barely looked up from their conversations. But the moment her violin touched her shoulder, the room fell silent. The first note floated through the air like magic. Then came another. And another. Within seconds, every conversation stopped. The melody was breathtaking, warm, powerful, beautiful. People turned toward the stage in amazement. Ethan found himself frozen. He had heard world-class musicians perform before. But this was different. Emma wasn't simply playing music. She was telling a story. A story filled with hope, sadness, courage, and love. By the time the final note faded, the audience erupted into thunderous applause. Some guests even stood. Emma bowed politely. Then she began walking off stage. Suddenly Ethan had an idea. A ridiculous idea. An idea that would change everything. He walked toward the microphone. The crowd immediately became curious. When a millionaire grabbed a microphone unexpectedly, something interesting usually followed. Ethan smiled. "Ladies and gentlemen, may I borrow our talented violinist for a moment?" Emma looked confused. The audience laughed. She slowly returned to the stage. Ethan faced her. "You play beautifully." "Thank you." "Actually, beautifully isn't a strong enough word." The crowd chuckled. Emma smiled nervously. "That's very kind." Ethan suddenly spoke louder. "Well then, Miss Carter, let's make a deal." The audience leaned forward. "A deal?" "Yes." Ethan grinned. "Play one more song. If it moves me enough, I'll marry you." The room exploded with laughter. Even Emma laughed. Everyone assumed it was a joke. After all, millionaires joked like this all the time. But Ethan's mother nearly dropped her glass. "Ethan." The guests laughed harder. Ethan raised his hands. "What? I'm serious." "You can't be serious," Emma replied. "Oh, I am." The crowd loved it. Phones appeared instantly. People started recording. Emma shook her head. "This may be the strangest proposal in human history." "Probably." "Do you even know me?" "No." "Have we ever spoken before?" "No." "Then why would you marry me?" Ethan smiled. "Because anyone who can make an entire room stop talking deserves consideration." More laughter. Emma crossed her arms. "And if I refuse? Then I remain a bachelor." The audience applauded. Emma thought for a moment. Then a mischievous smile appeared. The smile made Ethan nervous for the first time. "Oh." She stepped closer. "You really mean it?" "Yes. Promise. Promise." The crowd began chanting. "Play. Play. Play." Emma looked around. Then she nodded. "Fine." Cheers erupted. She lifted her violin again. But instead of beginning immediately, she spoke. "One condition." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "What condition?" "If I play, you must listen carefully." "Agreed." "Very carefully." "Agreed. Because this song has a message." Ethan laughed. "Now I'm curious." Emma smiled. "You should be." She placed the violin beneath her chin. The room became silent once again. Then she began. The melody started softly. Almost like a whisper. Gentle notes danced through the ballroom. Then the music grew stronger. Faster. More emotional. The audience sat spellbound. Yet Ethan noticed something unusual. The melody sounded familiar. Very familiar. His smile slowly disappeared. Where had he heard it before? The song continued. Memories suddenly surfaced. A small park. A rainy afternoon. A crying girl. A broken violin. Ethan's heart skipped. Impossible. The music ended. The audience erupted into applause louder than before. But Ethan wasn't clapping. He was staring at Emma. Where did you learn that song? Emma lowered her violin. I wrote it. The room quieted. Ethan swallowed. No. Yes. No, that's impossible. Emma's eyes softened. Is it? Suddenly the millionaire looked pale. Because 20 years earlier, when Ethan was only 12 years old, he had met a little girl crying beside a broken violin. Her family had been too poor to replace it. Young Ethan had secretly used his savings to buy her a new instrument. Before leaving, he had written a simple melody on a piece of paper. A melody he created himself. He never expected to hear it again. Not ever. Yet Emma had just played it perfectly. The crowd sensed something serious was happening. What is going on? Someone whispered. Ethan stepped forward slowly. Who are you? Emma smiled. Maybe the better question is, who are you? The ballroom fell completely silent. Ethan stared. Emma reached into her purse. She removed an old folded piece of paper. The edges were worn and yellow from age. Carefully she unfolded it. Gasps echoed through the room. It was sheet music. Handwritten sheet music. The same melody. And at the bottom was a signature. A 12-year-old boy's signature. Ethan Blackwood. His hands trembled. No way. Emma nodded. You gave this to me 20 years ago. The audience stood frozen. You're that girl. Yes. The room exploded with shocked murmurs. Ethan could barely believe it. Emma, you remembered. Of course I remembered. For a moment neither spoke. Then Emma laughed. Apparently your memory improved once I threatened marriage. The audience laughed nervously. Ethan laughed too. But his eyes were emotional. Why didn't you tell me? You never asked. Emma, you were busy becoming a millionaire. And you? I became a violin teacher. He shook his head. You should be performing in concert halls. Emma smiled. Maybe. Ethan looked around at the crowd. Then back at Emma. Wait. What? You played the song. Yes. And I promised something. The audience immediately began cheering. Keep your promise. Marry her. Do it. Ethan covered his face. His mother laughed harder than anyone. Emma tried not to laugh. You don't actually have to marry me. Good. Good. Because I think proposing before a first date might be reckless. The audience roared with laughter. Emma nodded. A sensible observation. Ethan smiled. However, the crowd instantly became quiet. Instead of marriage, Emma raised an eyebrow. Yes. How about dinner? The audience applauded. Emma pretended to think. That's not encouraging. I'm deciding. Please decide quickly. She smiled. One dinner. Ethan grinned. Excellent. One condition. Another condition. Yes. What now? You pay. The entire ballroom burst into laughter. Ethan bowed dramatically. Deal. But neither of them realized that someone watching from the back of the room wasn't laughing at all. A wealthy investor named Victor Sterling stared at Emma with cold eyes. Because years ago, Victor had stolen something valuable from Emma's late father. Something worth millions. And if Emma and Ethan became close, the truth might finally be discovered. Victor slowly tightened his grip on his glass. This cannot happen, he muttered. Far across the room, Emma laughed with Ethan, completely unaware that danger had just entered her life. And the simple joke, play the violin, and I'll marry you, was about to become the beginning of a story neither of them would ever forget.